Just 2 weeks before our wedding, my fiancée sent me a text. Honey, I am pregnant. I am thinking of putting my ex's name on the birth certificate. It is more meaningful. I replied, that is great news. Then, I canceled the wedding, called off our apartment viewing, and went to her ex's house to personally congratulate the father-to-be. His wife opened the door. I was sitting at my desk when my phone buzzed. A message from Madeline, my fiancée. 2 weeks before our wedding, everything was set. I opened the message, expecting something about flowers or the seating arrangement. Honey, I'm pregnant. My heart stopped. Then it started pounding. We were going to have a baby. Damn. I was going to be a father. A smile spread across my face before I could even fully process it. This was huge. This changed everything. This made everything even more perfect. I kept reading. I'm thinking of putting my ex's name on the birth certificate. It's more meaningful. The smile vanished. I read it again, and then again. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. She wanted to name our baby after her ex-boyfriend. More meaningful. Those were the exact words. More meaningful than what? Than me? The father? Wait. The joy that had filled me 30 seconds earlier turned into something cold and sharp. Why would she say that? Why would naming our child after another man even cross her mind? Unless no, stop, think. She said she was pregnant. She didn't say the baby wasn't mine. But that comment, that insane, stupid comment about her ex's name being more meaningful, what did that mean? My mind started connecting dots I didn't want to connect. When was the last time we'd been together? 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. Had she been acting strange, distant? I tried to remember, but everything felt hazy now. I stared at the message until my screen went dark. Then I turned it back on and read it again. The words hadn't changed. My hands were shaking. Not with anger yet, with something worse. Uncertainty, doubt, fear. What if this baby wasn't mine? The thought hit me like a truck. I had no proof. She hadn't confessed to anything. But why would she mention her ex's name in the same breath as announcing a pregnancy? People don't think like that without a reason. A real reason. I replied with fingers that didn't feel like my own. That's great news. Congratulations. Sarcasm felt safer than confrontation for now. I needed information before I made accusations. I needed to see reactions, gauge responses, and figure out what was really going on. Because right now, all I had was a horrible gut feeling and an incredibly suspicious text message. I grabbed my jacket and walked out of the office. My supervisor called after me, asking where I was going. I didn't answer. I got in my car and just sat there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. Madeline again. I'm so glad you're excited. We should celebrate tonight. Excited, sure. I was feeling a lot of things right now. Excitement wasn't one of them. I needed to talk to someone who could give me answers before I confronted her directly. Someone who would have an honest reaction if there was something to hide. I started the car and opened my maps. I knew where Grant, Madeline's ex-boyfriend, lived. She had pointed out his neighborhood once during a drive, maybe 6 months ago. She'd mentioned he got married, settled down, bought a house. At the time, it seemed like an innocent conversation. Now, it felt like reconnaissance. The drive took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of my brain replaying every possible explanation. Maybe she was joking. A terrible joke, but possible. Maybe she meant something else. Maybe I was overreacting. But that phrase kept looping in my head. More meaningful than the actual father's name. How could that make sense unless the actual father was someone else? I pulled up to a 2-story house with beige siding and a well-kept lawn. A blue sedan was parked in the driveway next to a silver SUV, married couple cars. I parked across the street and stared at the house for a minute. What was I doing? Was I about to accuse a man I'd never met of an inappropriate relationship with my fiancée based on a single, bizarre text message? Yes, because that text message was too specific to be random, too strange to be innocent. And if I was wrong, I'd apologize and leave. But if I was right, I needed to see his face when I brought it up. I needed to see him squirm. Maybe he'd confess, maybe he'd panic. Either way, I'd know more than I did before. I walked up to the front door and knocked. 3 sharp raps. My heart was pounding, but my face was calm. A woman opened the door. Blonde, athletic, in her 30s, Grant's wife probably. Can I help you? She asked, looking confused. Hi, sorry to bother you. Is Grant home? He's at work. Can I ask who you are? I pulled out my phone and showed her the message from Madeline. I watched her eyes scan the words. I saw her face change from confused to shocked to something I couldn't quite identify. I'm Madeline's fiancé, I said calmly. She just sent me this. I'm not sure what it means. I was hoping your husband might have an idea. Her hand went to her mouth. What? Why would she say that? That's what I'm trying to figure out. She stepped back from the door, pulling her phone from her pocket. I need to call him. This is insane. I agree, I said. Do you mind if I wait? She nodded, distracted, already dialing the number. I could hear her voice tremble as she told Grant to come home immediately. She didn't explain why. She just kept repeating that it was urgent. She hung up and looked at me. He'll be here in 20 minutes. He works nearby. Thank you. We stood there in an awkward silence. She kept glancing at my phone screen as if she needed to reread the message to confirm it was real. I kept my face neutral. Inside, my mind was screaming. Outside, I looked like someone patiently waiting for answers. A truck drove by slowly, the driver obviously curious about the stranger on his neighbor's porch. I ignored him. My phone buzzed. Madeline was calling. I declined the call. She could wait. I needed this conversation first. 18 minutes later, the silver SUV tore down the street and screeched to a halt in the driveway. Grant got out, tall and athletic, dressed in office casual. He saw me standing there with his wife, and his face went pale. What's going on? He asked, looking between us. I held up my phone. Madeline sent me this today. I thought you might want to see it. He took the phone, read the message, and his expression went from confused to horrified in seconds. What the hell? I haven't spoken to Madeline in years. Then why would she mention your name? His wife asked, her voice sharp. I don't know. He sounded panicked now, which was interesting. Innocent people get confused. Guilty people panic. This makes no sense. I took my phone back. She's pregnant. She says she wants to put your name on the birth certificate because it's more meaningful. You're telling me that means nothing to you? Absolutely nothing. His voice went up an octave. I'm married. I haven't been near her. His wife's eyes were filling with tears. Then why would she say that, Grant? I don't know. Maybe she's lying. Maybe she's trying to start something. I don't know. I watched him closely. He was defensive, for sure. But was it genuine defensiveness or a cover for guilt? Hard to tell. Either way, I had accomplished what I came here to do. I had planted doubt. I had created chaos. Now I had more ammunition for when I finally confronted Madeline. Okay, I said calmly. I guess I'll go talk to her then, see what she has to say about all this. Grant grabbed my arm. Wait, what are you going to tell her? The truth. That I came here, that you denied everything, that I want answers. He let go, running a hand through his hair. This is crazy. I didn't do anything. We'll see, I said, and I walked back to my car. Behind me, I could hear them starting to argue, his wife's voice rising, his denials getting louder. I got in the car and sat for a moment. My phone was blowing up with texts from Madeline now. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Please call me. I didn't reply. Not yet. I started the engine and headed for her apartment. It was time to hear her explanation. It was time to see her face when I told her where I'd just been. It was time to find out if my worst suspicion was right or if I was about to feel like the world's biggest idiot. Either way, this conversation was going to change everything. I drove straight to Madeline's apartment. My mind was racing with all the possible scenarios. Maybe she had a reasonable explanation. Maybe I was overreacting. But the sinking feeling in my stomach told me otherwise. People don't mention their ex's name when they announce a pregnancy unless something is very, very wrong. I parked outside her building and sat there for a moment. My phone kept buzzing. More messages from her. I ignored them all. I needed to see her face when I asked the question. Texts could be edited, rehearsed, calculated, but reactions, those were harder to fake. I walked up to her apartment and knocked. The door swung open immediately. She had been waiting right there. Oh, thank God, she said, her eyes red and puffy. I've been calling you for an hour. Where were you? I walked past her into the apartment without answering. I sat on her couch. I watched her stand in the doorway, wringing her hands. So, I said, my voice calm, tell me about the message. She closed the door and came to sit across from me. I know it sounded weird. I wasn't thinking straight when I wrote it. Not thinking straight, I repeated. You wrote 2 sentences. You used punctuation. You said putting your ex's name on our baby's birth certificate would be more meaningful. That requires some clear thought. I was just overwhelmed with emotion. Her voice was getting desperate. Finding out I was pregnant, it just brought up all these feelings about my past, about people who were important in my life. Important enough to name our child after them. She hesitated. No, that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Use simple words so I can understand. I was just thinking, maybe as a middle name or something. To honor the good relationships I had before you. Grant was a big part of my life at one point. Stop. I held up a hand. You want to give our baby your ex-boyfriend's name as a middle name to honor him, while you're marrying me. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. Because it is bad, Madeline. It's insane. I leaned forward. Why would that even cross your mind? Why would you send that to me right after announcing you were pregnant? She was squirming now, picking at her fingernails, avoiding my gaze. I told you. I wasn't thinking straight. The emotions got the better of me, and I just typed without thinking. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. Unknown number. I opened it. Tell your crazy fiancée to leave me alone. I'm happily married and want nothing to do with her drama. She's lying about everything. I showed her the screen. This just came from Grant, I assume. Her face went white. Why is he texting you? I went to his house. She shot to her feet so fast she knocked over her glass of water. You did what? I sat down with him and his wife. We had a nice chat. I showed them your message. I wanted to see how he'd react. You had no right. I had every right. My voice remained steady. You sent me a message that made me question everything. So I went looking for answers before I confronted you. Seemed like the smart thing to do. What did he say? He denied everything. Said he hasn't spoken to you in years. Seemed pretty defensive. His wife's eyes were filling with tears. I watched her face closely. But the interesting part is, he didn't look confused. He looked panicked. Because you ambushed him at his home with his wife there. Or because he has something to hide. I stood up. Here's what I can't figure out. If this baby is mine, if there's nothing going on, why would you mention him at all? Why would his name even cross your mind when you found out you were pregnant? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know. It was stupid. I made a mistake. A mistake is a typo. A mistake is sending the text to the wrong person. But you specifically intentionally mentioned putting another man's name on our baby's birth certificate and called it meaningful. That's not a mistake, Madeline. That's a choice. You're twisting everything I said. Really? Then untwist it for me. Make it make sense. She started crying harder. Why are you being so cruel about this? I'm pregnant with your baby, and you're treating me like a criminal. Is it my baby? The question hung in the air between us. She froze. What? Simple question. Is the baby mine? Of course it is. How can you even ask that? Because of what you wrote. Because of how you're acting right now. Because none of this makes any sense unless there's something you're not telling me. I've told you everything, she yelled now. I made a stupid comment that I regret, and you've blown this whole thing out of proportion. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Your girl has been texting me all afternoon begging me not to tell you anything, but there's nothing to tell because nothing happened. You need to handle her. I showed her that one too. He says you've been texting him, begging him not to tell me something. What don't you want him to tell me, Madeline? I texted him once after you left his house to tell him I was sorry you dragged them into this. That's not what this says. She reached for my phone. I pulled it back. Don't. You are ruining everything. Tears were streaming down her face now. We're supposed to be getting married in 2 weeks. We're supposed to be happy about this baby. And instead, you're accusing me of things I didn't do. Then take a paternity test. She went completely still. What? Blood test. Medical center. Prove the baby is mine. If it is, we move on. If it's not, I didn't finish the sentence. That's insane. Is it? You wrote something that made me question everything. You're acting nervous as hell, right? Now, Grant is acting guilty, so prove me wrong. Take the test. I shouldn't have to prove anything to you. You're right. In a normal situation, you wouldn't have to. But this isn't normal. You made it not normal when you sent that message. I walked to the door. Schedule the test. Send me the appointment details. Until then, I don't want to hear from you. Where are you going? Away from here. I opened the door. Oh, and the wedding. I canceled it this afternoon. Right after I got your text. Seemed premature to plan a wedding when I don't even know if I'm actually the father of your baby. You canceled our wedding? Her voice broke. I can uncancel it if the test proves me wrong, but I doubt it will. You're making a huge mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. I walked out and closed the door behind me. I could hear her sobbing through it. I didn't look back. My phone rang immediately. Her number. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined again. Then the texts started pouring in. Please come back. We can work through this. I love you. Don't throw away everything we have. I got in my car and drove to my parents' house. I needed to tell them before Madeline did. I needed to control the narrative before it spun out of control. Because I had a horrible feeling the whirlwind was just getting started. When I pulled into their driveway, my phone buzzed one last time. Another message from Grant. I'm getting a lawyer. You tell your fiancée that if she keeps dragging me into her mess, there will be consequences. I have a marriage to save because of her lies. I just sat there staring at that message. His marriage needed saving because of her lies. He kept saying nothing happened, but his panic suggested otherwise. Either he was guilty and covering, or he was innocent and terrified of being blamed. Either way, someone was lying, and I was going to find out who, even if it destroyed everything in the process. My mom opened the door before I could knock. She had that look on her face that moms get when they know something is wrong. What happened? She asked, moving aside to let me in. My dad was in the living room watching the news. He muted it when he saw my expression. The wedding's off, I said, slumping onto the couch. For now, anyway. What do you mean, for now? Dad asked. I pulled out my phone and showed them Madeline's text. I watched their faces go on the same journey mine had. Confusion, shock, anger. She wants to name the baby after her ex-boyfriend? Mom's voice was high. What would possess her to say that? That's what I'm trying to find out. I told them everything. The visit to Grant's, the confrontation with Madeline, the demand for a paternity test. My dad nodded slowly. You did the right thing. Something's not right here. But what if I'm wrong? I scrubbed a hand over my face. What if she really did just have a moment of stupidity and I'm destroying our relationship for nothing? Then the test will prove it, Mom said firmly. And if she has nothing to hide, she shouldn't have a problem taking it. My phone buzzed. Madeline again. I'd lost count of how many times she'd called in the last hour. You need to block her, Dad said, until this is sorted out. Don't let her manipulate you. She's not trying to manipulate, I stopped. Was she? The crying, the defensive anger, the way she was trying to make me feel guilty for doubting her. Maybe you're right. I didn't block her, but I did turn off notifications. My phone could vibrate all night if it wanted to. I wasn't looking at it. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying scenarios in my head. Best case. The baby was mine, and Madeline had just said something monumentally stupid that she would spend years apologizing for. Worst case, her trust was broken and she was pregnant by her ex. The in-between scenarios, I couldn't even imagine. It was pretty black and white. The next morning, I woke up to 10 missed calls and 32 texts from Madeline. I made coffee before reading a single one. Most were variations of please talk to me, and I can explain everything. But one stood out. Fine. I scheduled the test. Next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Harbor Medical Center. Are you happy now? Tuesday. That was 6 days away. 6 days of waiting, of wondering, of slowly going insane. But at least she had agreed to do it. I replied, I'll be there. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then they disappeared. Then reappeared. Finally, a single, okay. Work was impossible. I told my boss I needed the week off, family emergency. He didn't ask questions, just told me to take care of what I needed to take care of. A small blessing. On Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer. Hello, this is Jessica, Grant's wife. Her voice was tense. We need to talk. I sat up straighter. Okay. Did Madeline really text you what you showed us about the baby's name? Yes. I can forward you screenshots if you don't believe me. No, I believe you. I just needed to hear you say it. She took a shaky breath. Grant swears nothing happened. But he's been acting so strange since you came to the house. Defensive, angry. He won't let me see his phone anymore. He won't let you see his phone? I repeated. That's new. Very new. Before this week, we had an open phone policy. Now he's password protected it and takes it everywhere, even to the bathroom. My stomach tightened. That's not a good sign. No, it's not. Another pause. Is Madeline taking a paternity test? Tuesday. When you get the results, will you tell me? I deserve to know if my husband has been lying to me. I will, I promised. I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry you're going through it, too. She hung up. I just sat there, staring at my phone. Grant's sudden phone secrecy was damning. People don't suddenly lock down their devices unless they're hiding something. He was either deleting messages from Madeline, talking to someone about the situation, or he was truly guilty and covering his tracks. On Thursday, my phone rang again. This time it was Madeline's mom. "How could you call off the wedding?" she demanded before I could even say hello. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for our family? With all due respect, your daughter is the one who made this humiliating. She made a mistake, a silly comment, and you're throwing away your entire future." It wasn't silly. It was specific and concerning. "You're being paranoid and cruel. That baby is yours. Madeline loves you, and you're treating her like a criminal. She can prove the baby is mine on Tuesday. Until then, I'm not discussing this." I hung up before she could reply. Over the next few days, I got calls from Madeline's dad, her sister, her best friend. All of them telling me I was overreacting, all of them defending her. None of them able to explain why she had said what she did in the first place. My own friends were split. Half thought I was doing the right thing. The other half thought I was being paranoid, but all of them agreed the text was bizarre. On Friday night, my phone buzzed with a text from Madeline. "Can we please just talk face to face? I miss you." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to see her. Wanted to believe this was all a misunderstanding. But the smarter part knew better. After the test. Not before. "You really don't trust me at all, do you? Should I?" No reply. On Saturday morning, I woke up to a voicemail from Grant. His voice was tense with anger. "I don't know what game Madeline is playing, but I'm sick of being dragged into it. My wife is filing for divorce because of your accusations. We've been married for 6 years. 6 years. And it's all falling apart because your fiancée can't keep her mouth shut. If that test comes back showing I'm not the father, I'm suing both of you for defamation." I saved the voicemail. Might need it later. Sunday was the longest day of my life. Tomorrow was the test. Tomorrow, I would find out if I was going to be a father or if I had dodged a bullet. Tomorrow, everything would change, one way or another. Madeline texted me one last time that night. "I'm scared." I almost didn't reply, but something made me type back. "Me too. What if this ruins us?" It already has. The test just confirms what's true. "I love you." I didn't reply to that one, because I honestly didn't know how I felt anymore. Love requires trust, and trust was currently in very short supply. Monday night, I couldn't eat dinner. I couldn't focus on anything. My mom tried to distract me with a movie. Dad offered to go to the appointment with me for support. I declined. This was something I needed to do alone. I set 3 alarms for the next morning. I didn't need any of them. I was wide awake at 5, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours until I knew the truth. At 9, I got in my car and drove to Harbor Medical Center. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart was hammering in my chest. In 30 minutes, I would walk into that building not knowing if I was a father. And a few hours after that, I would walk out knowing if the woman I had planned to marry had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. I got to Harbor Medical Center 15 minutes early. I sat in the car, watching the entrance. At 9:55 exactly, Madeline pulled into the parking lot. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. She saw my car and hesitated before walking toward the building. I got out and followed her inside. We didn't speak, didn't make eye contact. Just checked in at the front desk separately and sat on opposite sides of the waiting room. The nurse called us back together. She led us to a small room with 2 chairs and a counter full of medical supplies. "We'll just need blood samples from both of you," she explained, all business. "Results usually take 5 to 7 business days. We'll call when they're ready. Can you email them to both of us?" I asked. "Of course," she glanced at Madeline. "Is that acceptable?" Madeline nodded, still not looking at me. The blood draw took 10 minutes. Madeline went first. I watched the nurse tie the tourniquet around her arm, watched the needle go in, watched the vial fill with dark red blood. That blood would tell me everything I needed to know. My turn. I barely felt the needle. I was too focused on Madeline's expression. She looked terrified. People with nothing to hide don't look terrified. "All set," the nurse said cheerfully. "We'll be in touch soon." We walked out separately. I reached my car before Madeline called out. "Wait, please." I stopped but didn't turn around. "Can we just talk for 5 minutes?" "About what?" "About us. About how we fix this." I turned to face her. "There's nothing to fix right now. We wait for the results. Then we'll know if there's anything left to fix." "You really think I was unfaithful?" "I think you gave me every reason to wonder." "That's on you, not me." Her face crumpled. "I made a stupid mistake with that text. I've told you that 100 times. Why won't you believe me? Because your story keeps changing? Because you get defensive when I ask questions? Because Grant is now hiding his phone from his wife?" I leaned against my car. "If nothing happened, why is everyone acting so guilty? He's hiding his phone because you created a toxic environment in his marriage. His wife thinks he crossed a line because you planted that idea in her head." "I didn't plant anything. I showed her what you wrote. She drew her own conclusions." "This is insane." Madeline wrapped her arms around herself. "In a week, you're going to get those results and feel like such an idiot. And I don't know if I'll be able to forgive you for putting me through this." "That's fair. And I don't know if I'll be able to forgive you for making this necessary." I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing there in the parking lot. My phone started buzzing before I even hit the street. I ignored it. The next 7 days were brutal. Madeline called constantly. Her family called constantly. My family tried to be supportive while secretly hoping I was wrong. I could see it on their faces. They wanted the baby to be mine. Wanted this whole nightmare to be a misunderstanding. I wanted that too. But wanting something doesn't make it true. On Wednesday, Jessica called again. "I filed for divorce," she said flatly. "Grant is staying at a hotel. He still denies everything. But I can't live with the doubt." I'm sorry. Don't be. If he's innocent, he'll prove it. If he's not, her voice broke. I deserve better than a liar. You do. When do you get your results? Any day now. Call me when you do. I will. On Thursday afternoon, Madeline's sister showed up at my parents' house. I was in the garage working on my car when she found me. You're destroying her, she said without preamble. She hasn't eaten in 3 days. She's having panic attacks. All because you can't trust her. All because she gave me a reason not to. One text message. One stupid text message that mentioned naming our baby after her ex-boyfriend. Yeah, that's a pretty significant stupid text message. She explained that. She was emotional and not thinking clearly. I put down the wrench I was holding. Let me ask you something. If your fiancé texted you saying he wanted to name your baby after his ex-girlfriend because it was more meaningful, would you just shrug it off? She opened her mouth, then closed it. That's different. How? Because Madeline wouldn't actually do that. She loves you. Then the test will prove it, and we can all move on. She left without another word. 20 minutes later, Madeline's dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail calling me paranoid and selfish. I deleted it without finishing. On Friday, my phone rang at 2 p.m. unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. This is Harbor Medical Center calling for. The woman paused, checking her notes. Regarding the results from Madeline Bennett and yourself. My heart stopped. Yes, this is he. Your results are ready. I can email them to both parties now. Or you can come pick up physical copies at the front desk. Email them, please. They should arrive in the next few minutes. Have a good day. She hung up. I stared at my phone. This was it. In a few minutes, I would know. I would actually know. I sat down on the porch steps. I opened my email. Refreshed. Nothing. Refreshed again. Nothing. Refreshed a third time. New email from Harbor Medical Center. I clicked it. The PDF loaded slowly, too slowly. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost dropped my phone. The document filled the screen. Medical jargon I didn't understand, technical terms and numbers. I scrolled down, looking for the one thing that mattered. Then I found it. Probability of paternity, 0%, based on the genetic markers analyzed. The tested male is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. 0%. Excluded. Not the father. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. But it was clear, brutally, undeniably clear. The baby wasn't mine. I just sat there on the porch steps, staring at those words, feeling absolutely nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not relief, just emptiness. My phone rang. Madeline. I answered. Did you get it? She asked, her voice small. Yeah. A long, heavy silence. I'm so sorry, she whispered. So it's true. You broke my trust. It was one time. A stupid, reckless incident. I didn't mean for it to happen. With Grant. Yes. When? About a month ago. We ran into each other at a bar. We were both drinking. It just happened. A month ago. While we were planning our wedding. While I was calling vendors and confirming the guest list. While she was trying on dresses and showing me floral arrangements. Does he know? Not for sure. I told him it might be his. He's been panicking ever since. And you were just going to marry me and pretend the baby was mine. I thought maybe it was. I wasn't sure. But you knew it might not be, and you didn't tell me. She was crying now. I'm so sorry. I made a horrible mistake. But I love you. We can still fix this. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Fix this. Madeline. You were pregnant with another man's baby. A man you had an inappropriate relationship with. What exactly is there to fix? We can get through this together. No, we can't. We're done. I stood up. You need to tell Grant. He deserves to know he's going to be a father. What about us? There is no us. There hasn't been since the moment you were with him. I just didn't know it yet. Please, don't do this. I hung up, blocked her number immediately. Then I forwarded the test results to Jessica with a simple message. You were right to file for divorce. She replied within seconds. Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. I called my parents. Told them everything. My mom cried. My dad just said, come home. We'll figure out the next steps. Next steps. Yeah, there were a lot of those to come. But first, I had one more thing to do. I got in my car and drove to Madeline's apartment. Didn't knock. Used my key one last time. She was sitting on the couch, right where I expected her to be. I want every penny back, I said. Everything I spent on the wedding. The deposits, the venue, the photographer, everything. I don't have that kind of money. Then figure it out. Sell something, borrow from your parents. I don't care, but you will pay me back every single dollar. That's not fair. Fair. I stared at her. You broke my trust, got pregnant by your ex, and tried to trick me into raising another man's child. And you want to talk about fair? She had no answer for that. I put my key on the counter. Goodbye, Madeline. I walked out for the last time, got in my car, and drove away from the biggest mistake I almost made. The baby wasn't mine. The wedding was off, the relationship was over, and somehow, I had never felt so relieved in my entire life. I wasted no time. Saturday morning, I sent a group text to both families. Madeline's parents, her sister, my parents, my brother, everyone who had been involved in this mess. Family meeting at my parents' house. 2 p.m. today. Everyone needs to be there. Madeline's mom called immediately. What is this about? You'll find out then. I got there early. Set up my laptop on the dining room table. Printed out copies of the paternity test results. When people started arriving, the confusion was palpable. Madeline arrived last, looking like she hadn't slept. Her parents flanked her protectively. Okay, her dad said. What's this all about? I handed everyone a copy of the test results. Watched their faces as they read. 0% probability of paternity, I said loudly. The baby is not mine. You want to know whose it is? Madeline's mom went pale. This can't be right. It's right. Madeline was unfaithful to me with her ex-boyfriend Grant about a month ago, got pregnant, and tried to hide it. That text about naming the baby after him, that was her guilt talking. Madeline's dad turned to her. Is this true? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. You crossed that line? Her mom's voice broke. While you were planning your wedding? It was a mistake. A mistake that cost me $15,000 in wedding expenses, I interrupted. I want every penny back. We don't have that kind of money, her dad protested. Then sell her car. Take out a loan. I don't care, but I'm getting my money back. My mom touched my arm. Honey, maybe we should. She made her choice. She can live with the consequences. Madeline's sister spoke up. You're being cruel. I'm being just. She committed fraud. She tried to trick me into raising another man's child. Cruel would be taking legal action. That shut them all up. Does Grant know? Madeline's dad asked quietly. He knows now. I forwarded him the results this morning. His wife has already filed for divorce. Madeline sobbed harder. Her mom put an arm around her, but even she looked disgusted. I think we should leave, Madeline's dad said stiffly. This has been humiliating enough. Good. You should feel humiliated. Your daughter destroyed 2 relationships and created a child. Neither parent wanted because she couldn't keep a commitment. They left quickly. My family stayed behind. Are you okay? Dad asked. Better than okay. I dodged a bullet. I sat down heavily. Can you imagine if I had married her? Found out later. Mom squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing, all of it. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Grant is freaking out. The lawyer says he'll have to pay child support. His whole life is falling apart. Thank you for finding out the truth. I replied, we both deserve better. Within hours, the news spread through our social circle. Friends started taking sides. Most took mine. Madeline's friends tried to defend her at first, but the evidence was too overwhelming. She had been unfaithful. She had lied. She had tried to commit paternity fraud. By Monday, she had deactivated all her social media. Couldn't handle the backlash. On Tuesday, I got a check from her parents for $8,000. A note attached. This is all we can manage for now. The rest will come in payments. I deposited it. Sent them a payment plan agreement. All business, no emotion. On Wednesday, I scheduled a health screening. The last thing I needed was a parting gift from Madeline's betrayal. The tests came back negative. A small mercy. A month later, I heard through mutual friends that Madeline and Grant were trying to work out arrangements for the baby. Neither wanted a relationship with the other, but both were stuck with an 18-year connection. His ex-wife took him to the cleaners in the divorce. House, savings, dignity. Madeline's family stopped talking to her for a while, too embarrassed. Me? I started going to the gym more, reconnected with old friends, focused on work. Slowly rebuilding the life I had almost destroyed by ignoring red flags. That text message saved my life, as stupid as it was for her to send it. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, because now I was free. And she was stuck living with the consequences of her choices. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. You just have to be smart enough to let it go. 6 months later, I received the final payment from Madeline's parents. $15,000 in total. Paid in full. I deposited the check and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just closure. My life had completely turned around. I got promoted at work. I moved into a new apartment downtown and started dating again, casually. No rush. I'd learned my lesson about ignoring red flags. I ran into Madeline once at a grocery store. She was heavily pregnant, looking exhausted. Our eyes met. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. I just kept walking. Nothing left to say. I heard through friends that Grant was paying child support, but refused to be involved beyond that. His ex-wife remarried someone better. Madeline's parents were helping her occasionally, but the relationship was strained. She had burned too many bridges. My family never mentioned her name again. That chapter was closed, locked, and buried. One night, my buddy Ben asked if I regretted how I handled everything. Not for a second, I said. That text message was the universe warning me. I could have ignored it, married her, and spent years raising another man's kid before I found out. Instead, I listened to my gut. Think you'll ever trust someone again? Yeah, but I'll verify everything now. Trust and verification aren't opposites. They're partners. 3 weeks ago, Madeline texted me from a new number. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're doing well. I blocked it without replying. Some apologies come too late to matter. Last week, I deleted the last photo of us from my cloud storage. Deleted her contact information permanently. Wiped every trace. People ask if I'm bitter. I'm not. I'm grateful. Grateful for that stupid text message. Grateful I found out before the wedding. Grateful I had the guts to walk away instead of believing her lies. She made her choice. I made mine. She's living with the consequences of betrayal. I'm living free. Sometimes the best revenge is just being happy while they're stuck in the mess they created. I don't think about her anymore. I don't wonder what might have been. I don't miss what we had, because what we had was built on lies, and I deserve better than that. Everyone does. The end. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.